Hey guys, welcome back. In this lecture, we will work on the controller specs for the post action of the user controller. We will write specs for creating a user. So first look at the user's controller specs, and here you can see that we wrote all specs for the index section of the user controller with an example group, and now we need to do the same thing for create action. But here we need to write more examples. So first create an example group with the describe keyword for create action, just like we created for the index. So describe, and here what we need to do, post and index, sorry, create. Why we are mentioning post here? Because we know that whenever we refer to the create action of a resource controller, that means we are sending a post request. Okay, so describe post, create do, and here what we need to do, just like index section, we need user to be signed in into the system first, then only we can create user. Why? Because we added before action authentication into the application controller. Okay, so first we will create a user using factory, and then we will use before hit to get this user signed in into the system. Okay, then only our spec will get passed for the create action. So just like create action, what we can do here, just copy this block, okay, and just paste it inside the post describe or the describe group of the post action. And here we can remove this get index. Why? Because now we need to send request to the create action, so we can remove the get index from the before hook, and now we need to implement our it blocks inside this post create example group. So here, first we will create it blocks for sending the request to the create action in both HTML and TurboStream format, and we will verify the content and media type of the response in both HTML and TurboStream format. So let's start with writing it block for HTML type request first. So how we can do that? First define an it block here, and the it block message should be like should accept the params with HTML format. Okay, and then do, and now just end this it block, and inside this it block now what we need to do, post create. First we need to call the action where we want to send our request, so post create, and then we need to define our params. Okay, because we cannot use the factory directly here. Why? Because if we use the factory directly, we will see some error, because the users attribute are not permitted entirely into the users controller. Here you can see that into the users controller what we are doing, that you can see that we did not permitted the password here, and since we added the device, so device require the password to be present for an entry or a resource that you want to save into the database. So first we need to permit the password here, so we will send the params manually here. So let's define params, and then inside this params body, what we need to do, we need to send our params into the user. Okay, and why I'm choosing user here, because here you can see that user params don't require user, so our user controller will accept the params into the user hash. So that's why we need to provide user hash as a key here, and now we need to provide our data here. So we can just copy the factory board data, and we will just format it. So just to switch to the user factory, and just copy this name, email, contact number, country, city, and state. Okay, and then just use this as parameters by just changing the syntax of this a little bit. So first what we need to do, we need to remove all these curly braces from here, and remove the curly braces from end as well. And now semicolon, sorry, comma, remove this curly braces as well, and do the same thing for all. Okay, comma, and now for the contact number, remove this curly brace, replace by comma here as well, and comma again, set empty. This is just test data. However, if you wish to modify the value, you can do that as well. Okay, and now just remove this as well and add comma here. Okay, so here you can see that we write the syntax for sending request to the post action, and we prepared the params here as well. Okay, and now what we need to do, we first need to expect the response type of sorry, the content type of this response when this request sent to the controller, that should be text HTML. Okay, so what we can do here, first add the debugger here, sorry, not debugger, first add it like expect, and then response dot media type to eq, and here what we can do, text HTML, so text slash HTML. Okay, save it, and now just run your specs from the line number 32. Okay, because all previous specs were get passed and we tested that in the last lecture. Now we just need to send our, now we just need to execute our spec from the line number 32. Okay, because there will be some error, so just switch to the terminal, and here what you need to do, RSpec spec controllers, users controllers, and run the spec from the line number 32. Okay, and when you run this spec, you will see that this spec or this request will get failed at the users controller. Okay, why? Because we did not permitted the password attribute from params hash. So switch to the terminal, and here you can see that our spec get failed. Why? Because it is failing the result in the view rendering, and we are not able to render any error HTML, any error template here. So here you can see into the users controller, what we need to do now, just to provide the password here. Okay, just permit the password here, and just send the, sorry, or execute your spec again, and when you is run your spec this time this spec will get passed. Here you can see one example, zero failures. So you got my point, what I'm trying to say here, that if you execute this spec at line number 33 without permitting the password into the user's controller, your spec will not get passed. Okay, now what we need to do, we just need to add the debugger here, just to check the response type. So add the debugger, and now run the same spec again, and when you run this spec again, this time it will hold the execution, and here you can check the response. So response, sorry, response, this is the response got in the response that we are getting from this request. And now response dot content type. Okay, here you can see the content type is text HTML char set UTF-8. Okay, and if you access the media type of the response, then you will get text HTML. So media type, sorry, let's remove this thing. And here you can see text HTML. Okay, that's why our spec get passed. So now what we need to do here, we need to expect the text HTML char set UTF as well. So we need to change our spec a bit, that copy this line, and here what we need to do, just replace the media type with the content type, expect response dot content type. Okay, and then use this line to in the RSpec method, and this should be text HTML char set UTF-8. Okay, so just paste this, sorry, just remove this double quoted string. Okay, remove the debugger and execute this spec again, just to check that whether our response dot content type is validating or not. So save the file and switch to the terminal and run your spec again. First exit from the debugger, one example, zero failures, and execute this line number 32 again, and you will see that our spec get passed now. Now let's write the very similar spec for the turbo stream format as well. So what we can do here, we can just copy this line number 32 and just paste it below, and we can write the it block for the turbo stream format. So first come to this line, should expect params with turbo stream format. Okay, turbo string format, and here you can see that in the params we did not mention any format for the request. Why? Because whenever you do not mention any format, it must be sent as the HTML request. Okay, but now since we are testing this for the turbo stream request, that's why we need to mention the format of the request here as well. So just add a comma here and format, and then just mention turbo stream, and add the debugger here. So debugger, and now run the spec from the line number 48. Okay, so when you run this spec, this debugger will halt the execution of your spec. Why? Because we just want to check what we will get the media type and content type when we send the request as the turbo stream format, because it will now application turbo stream vnd something like that. So that's why we will check it from the debugger. So here you can see that our debugger has halted the execution of the spec. Now check response.media type. Here you can see text vnd turbostream.html. Okay, so just copy this and paste in place of text html. So just switch the spec and here replace the text html media type by your copied turbostream content. Okay, and then response.content type. When you see, you can see that turbostream.html charset utf add. So just copy this again and just paste it into the spec. So paste it here. Okay, and now exit from the debugger. But this time your spec will get fail. Why? Because we were using text html and we are getting text vnd turbostream.html. Okay, but we changed updated the turbostream response into our spec now. So when you run spec again from the line number 48, you will see that your spec will get passed this time. Okay, why? Because we provided the correct media type and content type whatever we are expecting in the measure. Okay, so here you can see. So two of the examples for creating a users are completed. Now let's try to adding couple of more specs for checking where the create action redirects or template being rendered after a user is saved into the database. But before writing this spec, first come to the users controller and look at the create action. So open your users controller and just come to the create action, and here you can see after saving the user, when request form is html, then we are redirecting the user to the show page of the user or detail page of the user. Here you can see that after user.save, what we are doing, if request format is html, then redirect to user with notice user was created successfully. But when the request is coming into the turbo stream format, what we are doing, turbo format dot turbo stream and then render turbo stream and turbo stream dot append user list, and what partial we are rendering here, that is user slash user. Okay, and we are passing it local variable as well. So we need to handle this render or redirect using some spec. So let's write the spec first for the request to create action with HTML format. Okay, so switch to the spec file again and just copy this HTML request again. So what we can do here, just copy this and paste it after the second spec in this describe example group. So paste it here, and what we can do here, it should redirect. So just remove it. It should redirect to user show page with html format. Okay, so rest will be same, like post, create, params, user and all that. And now what we need to do here, we just need to remove both of these lines, because now we do not need to expect the response, what is the response content type and media type. What we need to do, what is where the spec is redirecting or where the create action is redirecting if the request is html format. So what we need to do, expect, then subject, okay, dot to, and what, then we will use the redirect method. Okay, so redirect to, and then we just need to use assign, or we can provide the url as well. So just assign and then user that is being created. Okay, and why we use the colon user here, that means it is not the params. As I explained in the last lecture, that whatever variable we use in the assign, that must be defined into the controller action as well. So here you can see that the instance variable we define into the create action is at the rate user. That's why we are using colon user into the assign here. Now one can think that what is subject here. So in RSpec, subject is a special variable that refers to the object being tested. Being tested means that this user is being tested, or we are testing this spec for creating a user. So that's why I use the subject. Okay, RSpec has an explicit idea about the subject. It may or may not be defined, And same in our example, you can see that we just used the subject as the user being created, but we never defined this explicitly in any of the example group or in any of the example. Okay, now save the file and switch to the terminal and run the spec. You will see that your spec will get working. Okay, so save the file and execute the spec from line number 65. So remove this 48 and replace it by 65. And when you run this spec, you will see that your record is, sorry, your spec is getting passed. Okay. Now let's do same thing for turbo stream request, but there we just need to check which template is being rendered. Why? Because we are not redirecting to any page after creating a user using turbo stream request. You can verify it on the user's controller again. So here you can see that if the request format is turbo stream, then what we are doing, we are just replacing a turbo stream, or we are just appending the user list to the DOM, and we are using the partial, that is users slash user. Okay, and you can see this partial into the user. So come to the app, use users, and you can see that this user partial is being rendered on the browser when our request is coming as the turbo stream into the user controller create action. Okay, so what we need to do, just copy this spec at the line number 48. Why? Because we are sending this request into the turbo stream format. So just save it and, sorry, just paste it here. And what we need to do here, it should render the user partial with turbo stream request. Okay, or with turbo stream format. So it should render the user partial with turbo stream format. Okay, and now what we need to do here, we just need to remove this line, expect response media type and content media type. What we need to do here, you can see in the index section that what we sorry, for the specs in the index, that what we did, expect response to render template index. Okay, so just copy this line and just come to the spec for the turbo stream. And what we need to do here, users slash underscore user. Okay, and why I'm mentioning the underscore here, because in RSpec you need to provide the exact partial name, so we are entering the underscore user here. Okay, so save this and now run your spec from the line number 80, and you will get your spec pass again. So just come here and replace 65 with 80 and submit the spec. And once this get running, you can see that one example, zero failures. Okay, so you here you can see that we wrote four more specs today, and three specs we written in the last lecture for index section, and today we write few specs for the post create action. Okay, now let's run all specs at once. So just remove the line number 80 and just execute the entire user controller spec, and you will see that seven examples, zero failures. Okay, so when you come to the terminal, you can see seven examples, zero failures. And you saw that the entire user control spec is working fine here, and that's exactly what we wanted. But there are some improvements that we need to do in our spec, that we can refactor the way we are passing the params into the it block. So into the user control spec, you can see that we are using this user params for all it blocks for both HTML, turbo stream request, and we can refactor this by placing this into a method. Okay, so just copy any of the user methods. So what we can do here, just copy this. Okay, and then write a method inside the describe block itself. What method name we can provide here, let's say user params. Okay, and inside the user params, just copy, use it and paste it here. Okay, correct the indentation, and then use this user params method at everywhere where we are using the params. So just use it here, user as user params, and then replace it for all the places. Okay, so here you can see that now our spec looks much better, that we are using the user params as the method. Okay, and why I did not copy the entire block, because I just wanted to use this format turbo stream for different specs. Okay, so just save the file now and run your entire user controller spec again, and you will see that after refactoring, our spec will get passed again. So switch to the terminal, and here you can see 7 examples, 0 failures. And now our spec looks much better because we are not repeating the user param hash or user params hash for all it blocks. Okay, so that's what we wanted. So in this lecture, we learn more things like writing spec for post action, what are subjects in RSpec, work with more RSpec methods like redirect, content type, and media type, and so on. And I believe this will be going to be a very helpful lecture for you. So let's give this lecture a try at your end. Thanks for watching this, and let's meet into another lecture. Till then, Tata, goodbye, take care, and stay safe.